Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle with Marianne. We all know that life is hard, right? It's messy, it's unpredictable, but it can be wonderful all at the same time. My hope is that we can take a deep dive into self-development topics and explore life's lessons through book clubs, conversations, and interviews. And together, we can uncover the lessons that others have already learned to help us navigate this crazy, wonderful ride called life. Hello, and welcome to Message in the Middle. For those of you that are new to the show, welcome, and thank you for being here. I know how much competition there is out there for your time, so I really do appreciate you giving me some of your time today. For those of you that come back week after week, you have no idea how much I truly appreciate you guys. I started this show and the Message in the Middle Facebook group about 2.5 years ago when I was going through some pretty big life transitions. And like the intro to the show every week says, I wanted to create this because life is messy, it's complicated, it's unpredictable, but I believe it's magical all at the same time. And I believe that together we can make it just a little bit easier to navigate. So I wanted to create a safe place to come together to share our challenges, experiences, and life lessons so we could support one another, validate each other, share shortcuts or new perspectives, and build community. I wanted to help people realize they're not alone, that many of our struggles are very similar, and that together we're stronger, we can heal faster, and we can reach dreams far bigger than we've ever imagined. As part of that, I've been trying to share bits and pieces of my own personal journey and changes in my life over the last handful of years that have been most impactful. But as I've said before, doing these solo episodes is definitely a stretch for me. Putting myself out here, being vulnerable, it is not for the weary or the weak-hearted. On the flip side, it does push me to continue to have new experiences and push myself to develop further. And it lets me have that creative outlet that I missed for so long. So here I am, back at it again. And today I'm here to share some thoughts on learning to live a more intentional life. I know, before you shut it off, before you tune out, I get it. If you'd asked me about living an intentional life 10 years ago, I would have rolled my eyes at you. But the truth is that as I've been working on various parts of my life over the last handful of years, things like my weight, my overall health, mindset, work-life balance, resetting priorities, and my relationships, what I've realized is that even though I didn't call it that, or make living intentionally an actual goal called out like that, what I did as a result of all these changes is take myself out of living in this autopilot mode and move into a much more intentional life. Let's break that down a little bit. What does that look like in real life? For me, it started with getting really quiet and taking time to reflect, reset my priorities, get really clear on what my actual values are. And once I did that, I was able to move into making conscious decisions about how I spent my time. Things like which relationships I'm going to spend the most time on, which ones I'm going to kind of fade away from, where work fits in and where it doesn't, and how I prioritize my family and my health. Basically, it's all about making sure the things I choose to do, the things I choose to spend time on, line up with my priorities and core values to help shape the life I want to live in a proactive way versus just being along for the ride and reacting to the circumstances. Let me give you an example. So I've shared with you guys many times that for years I worked a lot, probably too much, really. And as I look back at it now in the rearview mirror, it's pretty clear to me that work was a way for me to be strong, be independent, be in control, and be a superstar, even when I was feeling less than in other areas of my life. Work even helped me escape real life at times. But it's not like there was this conscious decision and conscious actions around my work or building my career that were made for the sake of building the life I wanted or felt I needed to be aligned to. Instead, it kind of all played out because mostly the actions I took were expected of me. I took them because I wanted to protect myself or protect my family. I did it because I wanted to find, or I needed to find, external validation because that was my driver back then. I didn't know all that at the time, but now, well into my own rediscovery, things are so much clearer. Today and for the last handful of years, I've shifted a lot of that. I have clear boundaries around the way I spend time at work or how much time I spend at work. I still make sure I'm adding a ton of value, so don't mistake that. I still do a really great job and I have a really strong work ethic. But my priorities are aligned with my values now. And that is my guiding light. I turn down roles that will take away too much time from my personal life. I have no issue communicating boundaries to ensure work doesn't interfere. I mean, I've communicated things like on Tuesdays and Thursdays, my family comes for dinner. So I plan to be off the computer and out of work at 5 o'clock. I mean, sure, there's a night or a weekend here or there that I have to change my schedule or work around knowing that I have to get something done for work to meet a deadline. But that's a rare occasion. It's not the default norm any longer. And that's because I set those boundaries and I've been very intentional. For those of you that listen all the time, you know that a few years ago, I took 6 months off when I separated from a career I had been at for 26 years. And that was when I really took the time to slow down, to rejuvenate, to reflect, to get clear about my core values, to reset my priorities, to listen to my own intuition, and to make sure I really was clear on what my goals were. And I made sure that when I took my new role, it was fully aligned with my core values and my priorities, and there wasn't going to be any contention. That was very intentional. And I'm not looking for validation through work anymore. I mean, that one was huge because once we can stop looking for external validation, it really sets us free from that hamster wheel of trying to accomplish the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. It's like, chasing that thing that you're never going to get because once you get there, you got to quickly jump onto the next thing. And for years, I was fueled by that. The pats on the back at work, the promotions, the awards, the bonuses. You guys, I know a lot of you get this because you've lived the same thing. Those were the things that really pumped me up, that made me feel good. But now I get that same sense of satisfaction, that same sense of fulfillment and the joy by doing things that really align to my core values, like spending time with the grandkids, just being silly and tumbling on the floor or having a puppet show. I mean, last night we were hiding under the kitchen table in this makeshift tent doing some silly stuff. And the unfortunate truth is that for many years, that would have seemed like a waste of time for me. And maybe I'm being a little too harsh on myself. It's not like I would have made a conscious decision that was a waste of time for me. And I guess that's actually my point. I wasn't making conscious decisions, but I would have been so focused on all the things that I had to do, on worrying about all the things that might happen if I don't get something done, on trying to chase that perfection, that I just wouldn't allow myself the downtime to enjoy that moment and be present in it. Similarly, today, I feel that same type of contentment, the same type of getting filled up by recording a great podcast, meeting with a guest and sharing their experiences or their knowledge with you guys. And just having my kids and grandkids over for dinner, which, by the way, is a completely chaotic, crazy experience. But that's the stuff that lights me up now. Another example where I made some changes was around mindset, which really encompasses so many things, but it really is true that changing our thoughts will change our life. Having gratitude for what you do have versus thinking about what you don't have, leaning into the possibilities of things versus the what ifs, it's huge. Shifting from worrying about the future and planning for every possible outcome or replaying the past over and over and wishing things had gone differently. When you stop doing all that stuff, it leaves time to be present and it leaves time to make deeper connections and really enjoy the people and places and events you're spending your time with. Your time that you've now aligned with your core values and your priorities. Listen, I'm not trying to say that I perfected all this. Don't get me wrong. Absolutely not. But I can say I've improved a lot. And today I do live mostly in the present, and I 1,000,000% feel grateful every single day. And that starts by waking up and just knowing that I get another day. I mean, I get another day. How many people don't get another day? So I'm grateful for that. And I can be going through a difficult situation and still feel blessed with all the things that are going right or that I'm lucky enough to have in my life. Years ago, that wouldn't have been the case. I would have been fixated on that thing that was going wrong and only the thing that was going wrong. And today, I waste far less headspace and far less time over planning and worrying about everything or trying to fix everything for everyone. Again, I'm not saying I never do. I slip like the rest of you, but it's something that now, much more naturally, I can stay in the space of being present and have my mindset shifted the way that I want to. And learning to stay present and understanding that it's not my job to make everyone happy and comfortable. That was a huge, huge shift, huge time suck. Gone. In the past, that was like an area that would tend to bring me down, that would make me feel sad. And now, not so much. I just don't waste my headspace on it. I'm not sharing all this because I want you to think I've got it all worked out. I mean, yeah, I've done a ton of the work, but I'm sharing this because I want you to know how much you can gain from making some of these shifts. So what did it take to get here? What did it take to make those changes in my life, to start living more intentionally? Well, the truth is, like any other journey, it definitely wasn't a straight path, and there's tons of layers and back and forth dance that happens like any other journey, and it still takes ongoing effort. But here are 4 areas that I think were most impactful for me. I've already hit on a few of them, but let me just go back and kind of dig in a little bit. So the first is self-reflection. I've always been someone that can look in the mirror and be honest with myself about my strengths and weaknesses. But it takes more than that to increase self-awareness and change your way of living. It takes curiosity to understand where your behaviors are coming from. It takes grace to see your limitations without judgment. And it takes deep reflection of your experiences to appreciate your progress, put things into perspective, and make more informed decisions in the future that lead you to a more intentional and mindful way of life without allowing yourself to get stuck in regret. That's really the key. Self-reflection and being honest with yourself, in my opinion, is the foundation of living intentionally. It helps you understand yourself better. It helps you understand where you came from. It helps you understand where your improvements can be and have already been made. It helps you make conscious choices to move in the direction you want to go in and take deliberate action toward that life that reflects your true values and purpose. Without self-reflection, it's easy to fall into a reactive or autopilot way of life where external forces shape your life more and you're not relying on your own intentional decisions. All right, so the second area that I think I should hit on is setting goals. As any of you guys that have been around for a while know, I'm someone who believes in setting goals and using tools like vision boards every year to give me a easily accessible reminder or compass to help keep things moving in the right direction. At work, in a corporate setting, you might do something similar by creating a 1 to 3 year business plan. It's a framework. It allows you to say yay or nay, easily say yay or nay to spending time, money, effort, or even emotions on something by using that plan to identify whether or not the thing you're debating brings you closer or further away from your goals. It's a reminder of directionally where you're looking to go or what you're looking to improve or change in your life. And it's something that I think you should revisit minimally once a year, but even better if you can do it quarterly. All right, the third area is mindfulness and presence. So, as I mentioned in the beginning of the show, I think mindfulness is critical to living intentionally. Intentional focus on the here and now allows you to fully engage with your experiences rather than being distracted by the past or having regrets over things that you did. It keeps you from being focused on worrying about the future too. Being mindful helps you reduce stress and increase enjoyment in life. It causes you to focus on what we have versus what we don't, raises the level of gratitude we feel in our everyday life. All those things. I mean, it takes practice. And for me, it's something I still work at. But like anything else, it becomes more and more natural with practice and creates such a huge shift in the way you experience the world and how you engage in it as you move forward. It's definitely worth spending time on and trying to be more mindful. So another key element, I think, is building a supportive network of family and or friends, like-minded people on a similar path, and finding mentors or people who are a few steps ahead of you in the path you're going towards. Those relationships should provide emotional support without judgment, help keep you pointed in the desired direction, help motivate you, validate your experiences and feelings, and hold you accountable. Keep in mind, those are just a few of the areas that you might want to take some time to work on if you're trying to live a more intentional life. And while everyone's journey will be a little bit different, it's very typical to see common themes. And for me, self-reflection, goal setting, being mindful and present, and building a small, trusted circle have made a huge difference in my life these last handful of years. And I think are great areas of exploration for you if you're trying to live more intentionally. As I wrap up, I want to thank you guys for tuning in each week. As an avid podcast listener myself, I know there are a ton of shows out there that you can listen to. And honestly, I hope you listen to a bunch of them. I know for me, I am listening when I'm driving. I'm listening when I'm washing the dishes. I'm listening when I'm cooking. I'm listening when I'm folding laundry. I just think the more information that we can bring in and hear, and the more people that we can listen to that are either expanding our thoughts, having us look at things differently, sharing in sort of some of the same experiences we're going through, I just think it's so helpful. And so anyway, back to, I know that time is important and limited. And so I just want to say, I know it's a big deal when you take your time and you spend it with me. I'm thrilled that you're finding the content relevant and it's resonating with you. I would be even more thrilled if you could share this or any other episode of the show with a friend that you think it might resonate with. I have openly shared before, it's not easy to grow the listener base of a podcast these days. And the best way to do that is with help from the listeners. So if you find it valuable in any way, I would so appreciate it if you could share it with a friend or even write a current review. Some of you may not even know that if you've written a review in the past, you can write a review again. And in closing, I will leave you with a John Maxwell quote. Intentional living is about making conscious decisions every day that move you toward the life you want. So go out there and be intentional, guys. We only get one life, and even if we're lucky enough to live into old age, it's short. So make sure you're living the one you really want to live. Thank you for listening to this episode of Message in the Middle with Marianne. If you enjoyed the podcast, please take a minute to share it and write a review, as it helps bring new listeners to our audience. If you'd like to keep the conversation going between episodes, please join us at Facebook group Message in the Middle with Marianne.